Welcome back. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is making a new bid for his freedom. His attorneys are set to ask a federal judge to order his immediate release tomorrow. At the same hearing, government lawyers are due to provide evidence of the steps the Trump administration is taking to remove Abrego from the country. This just days after a federal judge slammed the government for failing to answer, quote, basic questions and questioned whether officials are using a trick bag to hold Abrego on what she called a real topsy-turvy inside-out day. All of it, the latest twists and turns in Abrego's legal fight since he was wrongfully deported to El Salvador in March. And our next guest is one of his attorneys. Simon Sandoval-Moshenberg is joining us now. Simon, you're back in court tomorrow. Earlier this week, we mentioned this court hearing. The government said the plan is still to deport Abrego to Eswatini. The judge asked why he can't just be sent to Costa Rica, where he speaks the language he isn't afraid of going, a country that has agreed to take him. What answer are you hoping for tomorrow?
It'll be very interesting to see what answer they'll give as to why he isn't in Costa Rica already. 6 weeks ago, he signed a piece of paper agreeing to be removed to Costa Rica because that country had provided him assurances that they would give him refugee status and not deport him onwards to El Salvador, where he was already tortured in prison earlier this year. Now, Costa Rica is certainly not the only country that he would find acceptable, right? Many other countries could provide those assurances, but critically, Eswatini has not. And so it's just very clear that what the government is doing is they're not actually trying to deport him. They're just trying to hold him behind bars. And that's not permissible because the federal judge in Tennessee, the criminal court judge, has already ordered that he be released on the criminal charges.
And now it's been over 6 months since that whole ordeal began for Abrego when he was sent to CCOT. If the government is actually ordered to release Abrego, as the judge says she is inclined to do, what would happen? Do you expect he'd be released and picked back up again like we've seen before?
Well, the criminal judge released him on very tight supervision, right? He was essentially on house arrest, electronic monitoring, and he was only allowed to stay at home with his family for 1 weekend before ICE called him into their offices on the false pretense of an interview and then rearrested him. So if he's ordered released from ICE custody, he'll be back on the strict supervision from the criminal judge in Tennessee. And he'll be allowed to remain at home pending his criminal trial in January, which is, again, what the judge in Tennessee ordered.
So the judge seemed pretty frustrated as we kind of described how things went down, frustrated with the Trump administration and its lack of answers about an actual plan to deport Abrego. So if they don't have a plan to deport him, why is he still being held?
Yeah, that's exactly the question, right? I mean, it's going to be really hard for them to come up with a good faith answer that passes the laugh test as to why they need to deport him to Eswatini when Costa Rica is already, on the table and is a 4.5-hour flight away, right? The Supreme Court 2.5 decades ago held that the immigration system is a civil system. The only permissible purpose for immigration detention is to carry out a removal. That's clearly not what's happening here. If they wanted to carry out a removal, they would have removed him already to Costa Rica. They can do that this afternoon, right? We don't even have to go to court tomorrow. They can remove him to Costa Rica this afternoon. And it's also very clear that they can't use the selection of which country to deport someone to in a punitive manner. And I'm just going to be really interested to hear what their witness has to say tomorrow as to why they're doing all these things that they're doing.
We are curious as well. Simon Sandoval-Moshenberg, thanks for the update from your end, and we'll continue to follow this case. We appreciate it.